All right, so we got the epoxy down. Now we're going to start doing the Raptor liner. Now on both of my cars that I did, well, on the Honda, I tried to tape off where I was going to have the yellow stripe because I wasn't sure if yellow was going to cover like navy blue or not. And truthfully, even on the epoxy primer, I mean, that yellow is pretty vibrant, but that had a hard time covering the gray, so I actually had to mix up one more quart and go over it again after I got done because I could kind of see a little of that gray showing through and I didn't like it. So if it's going to be a color that's relatively dark and easy to cover, like on the truck, I did go ahead and paint the whole thing green, and then I went over it with the black afterwards. So as far as the process goes, the most complicated part is going to be using an HVLP gun if you're going to do your door jambs and stuff like that. So you can use, technically I ended up using one that was the same that I shot with the primer, and I cleaned it out as good as I could and put the Raptor in there because one of my other guns wasn't working, and it was one of those like you do what you got to situations. But the hardest part is thinning out the Raptor in order to use the HVLP gun. Now, the way that I ended up doing this, the first time on the Honda I wasn't prepared and it was a lot harder. But essentially with the Tintable version, what I do is I mix it up. So go and mix it up like regular out of the bottle. So we pour it in a pot. We pour the chunky Raptor down in there, the base, and then we take the hardener, we put the hardener inside the bottle, and then we shake that up to try to get out all the base that's left in there, and then we pour that in the paint pot, and then we get our Velocitint pouch and we squeeze out all that color in the pot and we start mixing it up a little bit. Now, that's not going to spray very well out of an HVLP gun, and like I said before, we want to use the HVLP gun in the door jambs just to make sure that the seals and stuff have the best chances of not having leaks and stuff like that. Some people do spray their whole cars like that. I've seen where they have more of an issue with scratches and stuff. I'm still not saying that it's a bad thing. I don't know, I've never did it. So, but in order to spray it, you have to thin it down. In order to thin it down, you got to have some urethane reducer. Did buy some off of Amazon. I had ran out and I found some at a car supply, auto supply paint booth, but it was a lot more expensive. So I would try to order the one off of Amazon so you have like a gallon. I'd also have some acetone laying around because it works fairly well to clean it out. And it's not as expensive as the urethane reducer, which you can also use. But like regular paint thinner is not going to cut it for this. So what we do is we have our mixture there, and then I'm going to weigh that. So, and I'm going to weigh it, I'm going to weigh the paint pail, and I'm going to zero it out, and I'm going to add everything in there, and I'm going to weigh it. Now we can add 15% of that weight back with the reducer, and that's as thin as you can thin it down. So I get the weight on that, and then I do the math of what's 15% of that, and then I add that in until I get to the weight that has the 15%. So I know that math ain't mathing when I'm talking about it, but you'll understand because it's only 15% that you can add in there. Then you mix it up real good. Then you put it in your HVLP cup and you go around and you start spraying. And like I said, on this day, day one, I just did the door jambs and I did underneath the hood, and that way that could cure and dry and I wouldn't have to worry about the plastic sticking to the bottom of the hood or anything like that. So day one I did this, and truthfully, whenever I was spraying this military green, it was a little bit more brown than I thought. I thought it looked like baby poop when I was putting it on. I thought, what did I do? What did I do? But I ended up being happy with it. But when you're putting it on, it might look a hair of a different color than what it's going to dry. So just so you know. All right, so then I went back on day two. In day two, we're going to paint the entire rest of the body and everything. Now, remember, we're in our 7-day window of the epoxy primer, so there's no extra steps here. I did go ahead and run some tape inside the doors First I tried some foam tape. That's what a lot of people recommend. Just so, I mean, what's going to happen is you're going to have chunkier color like get in there and spray around. And that happened when I did the 4Runner because I didn't protect the inside of the door with tape. Now it was a different color, so it stands out a lot. Probably wouldn't stand out if it was the same color, like because we already did this with the HVLP gun. But I wanted it to look as factory as possible. So I went through, I ended up just using painter's tape and I stuck it to the inside of the door. And that way it just caused like a flap. And when I closed the door, then it sealed that off. And if it worked better, like at the bottom of the door, I just put it around the bottom of the door on the frame side instead of on the door. But I try to plug all those gaps where you just wouldn't get stuff spraying through and being chunky right there. So then we mix up our color. Now to do this, just like I said before, what we do is we use a paint pail and we take our Raptor, the base, and we pour it out. And a lot of it's not going to come out because it's all thick and looks like glue. And then we take, after we get out all that we can, we take our hardener, we put it in there. It's more liquid, so when we shake it up, it loosens a lot of that stuff up. Then you pour it back in the paint pot. And then you take your Velocitant and you squeeze that out. And by the way, they did sponsor this video, so we got to throw that in there. But I've explained that to you guys before, but it's a great product. You can find their website down below and more information in our other videos. But we're going to empty that Velocitant in our bucket there that's got all of our paint in there. And then we're going to mix it up with a stir stick. And then we're going to take that and we're going to put it back into the original container because that's what you're going to spray it out of. Now, most of the time that you're going to have an issue spraying, whether it's the black or the Tintable Raptor liner, it's going to boil down to one thing, and it's going to be, well, two things. Number one, the gun's going to be gunked up, or number two, you didn't mix it up well enough. And it's usually going to be you didn't mix it up well enough if you do what I tell you to do. I broke down, I actually bought this paint mixer off of Amazon, and all in all I liked it and it worked fairly well, but the straps weren't quite long enough for the Raptor bottle. But you stuck a drill on there and then it had like an oblong thing, so it would essentially make it move up and down. But in order to really shake it up, you had to be on high and you couldn't hold on to the thing because it was like blah, blah, blah. I would really like a paint shaker, but I wasn't going to spend a couple $100 at the Harbor Freight for one. So I saw some videos where people put it in, like they rigged a piece of pipe and a drill, and when they moved the drill it like went around. I don't think that that's going to mix it up enough and you're going to have issues. So either just mix it by hand, like 2 minutes, hard as you can. Or what I think I would try, I had a lot of people tell me this when they said I wasted my money on that paint mixer that I bought, because I think it was like 40, 50 bucks and it didn't work that well. But they said get a reciprocating saw with a long blade on it and then just duct tape the bottle to the blade. I think that would probably work the best for the Raptor. And so that's probably what I'm going to do from now on. We're going to test that whenever I do my next project. But so you want to mix it up really good for at least a couple of minutes. And then you want to put it on your spray gun. Now you can either use the Schultz gun, which comes with a lot of the kits. Don't get the one that's got the variable gun in it, because that gun is not user-friendly at all. I do recommend the variable, the professional, the Raptor U-Pole professional gun. It's like $100. I use it all the time. It's great. Buy it. If you don't want like the full textured look, you can get a little bit of a different texture with the regular gun just by mixing with the air pressure and your distance and stuff like that. But I really like the professional Berry gun, and I would recommend it if you're trying to keep your texture down to a more minimum. So we're gonna have our air compressor aired up. We're gonna keep it at 60 psi. You do want a PSI gauge on the gun, because that's going to cause you a lot of issues too if you're not at the right PSI. And I like to be able to control how strong the air is at the gun itself and not have to go back at the air compressor, because sometimes, I mean, as the air pressure decreases in the tank, it's going to change a little bit. and it's better for you to be able to make those adjustments, or know you need to wait and let it catch up a little bit without having to run back and forth. So I keep it at 60 psi. So my gun's got the paint in it, put the air hose on, I'm ready to start spraying. I usually start at the roof and go along the roof and then down. Now, they say you're supposed to do like a couple of coats in perpendicular paths. And so a lot of times what I would end up doing was I would go like, I'd follow the body line with one coat, and then I would do the opposite for the second coat. And then you're supposed to do like a third coat, which is like a drop coat from further away, and it just kind of ties it all in together. So hopefully you don't have like tiger striping and stuff. But I'll say that I had an issue with this. I didn't have any issue on the Honda, which I did first. So probably shot my confidence level too high when I did the truck. But what happened, I think, was the first coat, I did the body lines. So I'm going back and forth, front to back with the body lines. And then the second coat, I did vertical. And because I did that second coat last, those lines showed up more. Now you're going to want to have an overlap, up to like 50% overlap. I think that what I would recommend doing, and this was recommended to me when I said that I was having issues, is somebody said do a crosshatch pattern. So I'd go ahead and do like vertical and horizontal on that first coat, and hopefully that won't show up as bad. And then with the second coat, I think that I would stick with following the body lines so that it's not as blatant of like a vertical stripe if it does show up. And then the third coat, like I say, you're going to do more of like a drop coat. So first coat, I would start out, and like if I was on the side with this method, I would go over like the back door, and I would go up and down all the way across real quick, and then I would go side to side and follow the body. Okay. And then a lot of times what I would do is after I did like both doors and the hood, so I got the whole body painted on that side, I go front to back, just kind of trying to tie it all in together a little bit more too. Again, I'm not a professional. This is just what I did. Now I will say that on the truck, when I first got done with it, it had really bad tiger stripes, and I was hoping that they would look better the next day. And then I started pulling the tape off, and that's when I told you like I had like a white ring around the door handle, and I had one around the antenna on top. And it's because that I had the tape pretty tight, but it still showed a white line when you took it off. And so whenever you're taping, I would pull that tape back about 1/8 of an inch and just paint over those body pieces about 1/8 of an inch, so you don't have like a white line. Because then I tried to go back and like cover the white line up, and that made the tiger stripes look worse because it made more blatant there. What I ended up doing was having to go over it again with another 2 coats and a drop coat the next day. It was actually, I waited like 3 days, and I did go over it with the nylon cut brush first. And I tried to go over it with degreaser, but the degreaser and the rag didn't work too well on the Raptor liner, so I didn't use degreaser that time. So all that was to say, go through, do each body panel, and then you're going to want to let it dry just till it flashes off, which is usually going to be about the time you get done with all your parts. So do the hood, the roof, the hood, both sides, the back, and then I went and did the bed and the tailgate. And then by the time I got done with all of that, then it was dry on the cab of the truck, so I started from the top again, did the second coat the same way. And I spray at 60 psi, and I keep about 18 inches of space between the gun and the car. And for the Honda, that turned out great. Like I say, with this truck, I had more tiger stripes, but I think I've narrowed that down. A lot of people say you want more space there. I'm really happy with the way that it turned out for me. And then after I did that, the additional coats on the truck, I'll say that if it's direct sunlight, you still can see a little bit of those tiger stripes in places. But all in all, it looks pretty well. And it's not driving my OCD nuts enough where I'm going to go over it again right now. So what I did is I did all that, and then I let that cure. And then a few days later, because I'm having to work during all this and stuff too, I did tape off where I did the black at the bottom. So I did it on a different day. Taped it off above that. Tried to put some plastic and stuff over the top of the green so I didn't get any issues. And then I did 2 coats of the black and a drop coat over that. So my truck has, the green all had 2 coats, a drop coat, and then a repeat 2 coats, a drop coat. So that's 6 coats of everywhere that the green is. And then it had 2 coats and a drop coat of the black. So on the bottom, on the rocker panels, I got 9 coats of Raptor liner. Hopefully it's going to be pretty strong, because it's sure thick enough to. Hopefully it's not going to cause any issues because it's too thick. You can put Raptor over Raptor. And so it's really, I don't think it's going to be an issue at all. I will say that during Hurricane Helene, which didn't hit my area too hard, it was just rainy, but that's when I was needing to put that last coat of green on, and because of that I wasn't going to do that with it raining. But I did notice I had the tarp over the truck, and it was just like a light rain. It wasn't like storming where we were. I thought, oh, there's more surface rust on the frame of this truck than I would like, which is real strange with it being in Tennessee. And so I thought, let's work on this. You know, it's raining a little bit, but we can do this. So I went through and I wire wheeled a lot of the rust off the top of the frame on the bed. And then I thought, well, we'll just cover this with Raptor liner too. And I went through beforehand and I pressure washed the frame. I thought, if I'm going to do the frame, let's do the whole frame. Pressure washed it and used degreaser on it. I didn't scrub it. And I had a previous oil leak, which is taken care of now. But because of that, a lot of that, and it was the primer, didn't stick to the components. And so a lot of that has peeled off on like the front part of the frame, which is not as big of a deal because that's not the part I was really trying to protect. I didn't spend enough time like prepping that, and I mean, it was raining and I was laying in water while I was doing it. But the area on the back where the bed is and that part of the frame, that's pretty bulletproof back there. So I'm happy with it overall. But definitely, if you're going to do your frame and stuff, you got to prep it just as good or better as you do the body. So that's just throwing that out there for you. Now the last step of doing the painting is removing all the tape and the plastic. Now you want to do this while it's wet. There's been some discrepancy with different videos from time to time of things that I've watched. Some people say let it dry, but the biggest consensus is take it off while the Raptor is wet. So you do that drop coat, and then right after that drop coat, you need to get that tape and plastic off. And be very careful not to like rub into the car and stuff when you do that. I thought taking the tape off the windshield and stuff was going to be a real big issue. It really wasn't that bad. Start with the one corner and just everything that you've had taped off, the windows, if you did it with the windows up, or you know, any seals that you just taped off, any windows, any body parts where you're trying to, you know, not paint a specific area. Go ahead and pull all that tape off, because that's going to give you the best chance of a nice, straight, and solid line right there. So go ahead and get that stuff off there. And congratulations, because you got yourself a Raptor painted ride. Now, is that going to be it for this video series? No. That is pretty much it for the Raptor liner portion of things. You know, I am going to show you some different upgrades and stuff I did for the truck and all that. But pretty much all you have to do as far as the Raptor liner, it's done. You just got to put the body parts and stuff back on. So I'm going to go through and kind of show some different things I did when I put the bed back on, and, you know, put the upgraded suspension parts and the accessories and all that. But as far as the Raptor liner itself, I think we can call it done here. Like I say, I'm not a professional, especially with the help of the Facebook groups. Number one in particular is one called Raptor Liner Coated Vehicles. I've had a lot of success in, you know, getting some questions answered and stuff like that. So I would check that out, and I'd check out all the different YouTube videos you can find if you're interested in doing this. I've tried to break it down into more step-by-step basis for you. Again, you know, it's just me, Joe Blow, telling you what I did. Maybe I screwed up, maybe I didn't do it right, but I'm happy with it so far. So we'll give you some reviews on this, you know, year, 2 years, 5 years down the road, and we'll see what it looks like. But thanks, guys, for being part of the series, and thanks for following us.
Do not forget to hit that subscribe button.